So can you tell us about events, and in particular, why Involve is the first time a school has ever been able to unify all of its calendars? Because schools often have actually up to about 4,000 different calendars. So could you give an understanding of why Involve is different and how that helps schools?
Great. So what we're looking at here is actually the full calendar for this school. So every single event the school has going on, whether that's classroom lessons, whether that's trips, fixtures, absences, cover, whatever it is. And this hasn't been done before because to actually have all of these events in one place and, as was said, a personalised calendar for every single staff member, student, parent, you have to not only have all of these different types of events on your calendar, you have to actually be able to fully run, fully manage all of these events. So whether that is your approval process and forms and payments for a trip, whether it's being able to manage your staff rotas, so like duties, or whatever else it is, they have to all be in one place. And that is what Involve does uniquely.
Cool. And so we're going to go through how this calendar gets layered up all the way from music and learning support all the way through to this kind of unified calendar that you're seeing right now. So James, can you start us off with music lessons, some of the most wonderfully complex things going on in schools?
Yes. So first of all, to have a music department work, you have to be able to take in a huge set of different constraints and parameters. So not only sort of straightforward things like your term dates and sort of special days, but you've also got things like your subjects. So which classes are students not allowed to leave for a music lesson, and beyond that, actually how many of these different lessons have they missed so far this term? How recently did they miss them? How many minutes have they actually missed? And then all sorts of other things like lunches and break timings, or for your teaching staff, your music staff, what days are they actually working, and what are their hours within those days, and when they are in, which rooms are they using, and which are the preferred rooms for those to use. All of those things come together when we do our automatic scheduling. So as a music admin or head of music, we can simply come to our calendar, run an automatic draft for a week of music, or indeed a whole term, or indeed all of our teachers at once. And that will schedule those music lessons in and around all of those constraints that have come in. And actually, this isn't just for music. It could be for things like sports coaching, like this one. It could be for interventions. And we can see, in fact, live in this calendar, what are those restricted subjects that we're not overlapping with, and what are the things which we have previously missed, which might overlap with these music lessons, but we can actually see, say, for example, French was missed 6 weeks ago. RE hasn't been missed at all yet this term for music lessons.
Cool. Okay, so that shows with rooms and music lessons and making sure that all the availability in one place, all of it works. Adding in another one of the kind of co-curricular conundrums for something like calendars. So thinking about clubs in particular, the complexity around getting clubs into a calendar with the right people on those registers, given that a lot of the time you want to be able to give students or their parents the ability to select preferences for those clubs.
Yeah, so just very briefly, here's our list of clubs in the school. And when we're looking at one of those, we have a few different ways in which students can be added onto clubs. So other than doing it manually, we can have a self-sign-up option where at any point a student or parent can opt into that club, or even opt into individual sessions within term of the club. Or we can use our preference-based allocation. And that's what I'll just show you quickly now. So we can create a sign-up window. So this could be a week or two long. And during this period, so we've picked the different clubs through the week that we want students to be able to choose in this process, and how many clubs they're allowed to sign up for, how many backup choices they need for each of the slots. And this will automatically notify students and parents that the sign-up window is available. And they can then come onto Involve using the app, and they'll fill out something that looks a little bit like this. So they've got the different slots through the week, and then they can pick choices, one or more, depending on your settings for that. And they can pick their clubs. And then when that sign-up window comes to an end, so perhaps at the end of term, you'll hit this magic allocation button, and that will drop all of those students into clubs based on their preferences. And that's using our fairness-based club allocation algorithm. And you have a chance, before these are published out, you can switch students between clubs. You can see whether they got their first choice. You can even download that as a giant spreadsheet and see all of the options. When you do hit save on this, that's going to automatically notify the students. And importantly, it will update all of the registers on all of those clubs. So for a teacher leading one of these, their timeline is automatically populated each week with the club and with the correct students on each of those clubs.
Awesome. Okay, so we've got the asynchronous things, those complex things like music lessons, learning support, Lambda. We've got clubs, lots of complexity with preferences. How about adding in fixtures? So schools hugely busy with fixtures. How do you coordinate team selection? Which fixtures are on-site and off-site? Which fixtures are grouped against the same opponent? All those kind of things.
Great. Yeah, so easiest way to show this is to add a new fixture. And if we do that, as with all our event types, you've got some options which are quite particular to what this is. So with fixtures, you'll often be playing against one school, but you might have a few different matches going on. And so for each of those, we can select from our available squads. We can, as you say, this could be an away match or an on-site, off-site home game. And we'll have things like the specific timings, the staff, or even volunteers who are helping out on this fixture, even whether there's a catering implication, and that's going to automatically notify the selected person through Involve. But with all of that done, we can quickly create a copy of that for a different match happening as part of the same fixture block, and we can add as many of those as we like. And when those are in, those feed into our main fixture list, which is what I'm showing here. And you can easily see from this point which need a team selection to take place. So here's a block of 3 fixtures, for example, happening at the same time. I can see for this third one, I haven't picked a team yet. So I'll just click on that. The event opens up, and now I have my squad of available players, and I can easily click on those to pick them for this fixture. It's worth noting as well, if anyone wasn't available for this game, this icon here for clashes would be highlighted, and I'd be able to see what else they had on, so that I would know not to pick them for this game. Also, with that team selected, I've got things like the medical notes pulling through automatically from your MIS, and I've got the communication area, which we have on every single Involve event. So I can talk with either staff internally or the team and their parents, and I've got all of the communication, perhaps even files and images about this event all in one place.
Awesome, thanks, James. And so then the kind of final layer of co-curricular, non-curricular activity, can you show us how we make it possible to bring trips into this context as well? So this is the kind of final layer for getting all of that student calendar in one place.
Yes, and again, I'll just jump to one I've made earlier. But trips, in many ways, capture most obviously the fullness of an entire platform that we've replaced within the single tab on Involve. So you simply click on a trip and this opens up. And what you'll notice is different with trips is this workflow. And this is what allows you to bring your process for running trips all the way through from the initial internal approval, confirmation with parents, getting that consent, additional details, even things like forms and payments, through to final risk assessment and publishing on calendars. So all of this is configurable. You can adjust that in your settings. And some views here which are common to things like fixtures as well. So you've got the way to select which students are going on the trip. You've even got things like their consent status pulled through into this view, as well as, again, the clash notifications. And then if you've got more detailed forms that you've sent out. You can see all of those details and responses in here, as well as downloading them as part of an offline trip pack document. And once again, as with all Involve events, you've got that communication area on the right-hand side. And yeah, you can use that to talk internally as well as with the parents and students.
Awesome. And so one of the things that's quite nice, kind of once we've shown how all of these student calendars are brought together, it's nice to show kind of like one of the immediate benefits to that. So James, can you show us, teachers are so familiar with the difficulties of locating students. So the MIS will often tell you where they would be if the student only had a simple timetable, but because timetables are much more complex than an MIS, it doesn't show all the different potential places that the child might be, whether it's learning support, music, trips, fixtures, etc., etc. So can you show us how not only Involve shows you that, but it tells you which one they're actually at?
My favorite way to do this is just to use our quick search. So you can even just press Control K, start typing a student's name. This actually works for teachers and groups and all sorts as well. And you can see each student has one of these location icons on it. And if I find someone who does actually have a lesson, then I will be able to demonstrate this. We're between lessons. We have gaps in our timetable. Oh dear. Well, anyway, yeah, I'll show you in 2.5 minutes, and this would show not only the lesson they're currently in, but it would actually stack up things like music lessons or trips if they have overlapping events in their calendar. But I'll come back to that in a minute. As a teacher or staff member, a common frustration is how do you get other meetings booked in when you have such a chaotic schedule of lessons or internal staff meetings and so on. And something that you may have come across in organizations generally is with tools like Calendly, ways to generate links which you can send out to people, and then they can book in slots in your calendar. We use similar tools as with Involve. And so with your calendar now unified in one place, you can generate one or more of these meeting links, and you can actually specify them as being online video meetings that you take to Involve or not. And you can pick things like the length of those meetings and so on. And then when you send that link out to someone, whether it's a parent, whether it's a contractor who needs to come in and sort out one of your rooms, they then get this page where they can see your available times and they can book a slot into your calendar. And again, the benefit of this is a true picture of your availability, because it's taking into account all those things, whether it's your absences, your classes, your intervention sessions, clubs, whatever it is. So they can book a meeting in with you. And if they are a parent, we'll also recognize their details and we'll hook it up to their Involve account, which is pretty neat.
Cool. So for that to work, there's a couple more things that we need to make sure are on a teacher's calendar, which, currently at the moment, no one's able to kind of unify these things. So can you show us how we've been able to bring duties into the same unified calendar?
Yeah, starting. So for duties, there are a few different types of events that feed into duty rotors. The main one would be things like your lunch breaks and other breaks where you would rota one or more teachers onto those, but also year group detentions, and even in some cases, registration events can also feed into duty rotors. So where this kind of lands and Involve is we have this page for duty management, and we've broken up each duty by its instance each day of the week, even across a 2-week calendar timetable. And for each of these, we have the number of staff that are required to cover each of those slots. And you can see I've got some here that are missing staff. So if we go into drafts and changes, one of the real advantages of this is that you can be working on changes to your rotas, which are saved in draft mode. And then when you're ready, you publish them onto the teachers' calendars. So I'm just going to click and select a range of these, assign a new member of staff. So all of those duties, they're added straight away. And then I'll pick a couple of these, publish them out. And that's now immediately gone onto the timetable of the relevant members of staff. So when they come on to Involve, or perhaps in their live calendar feed that is pulling into Outlook, they will then see, alongside their classroom lessons or whatever else, they'll see those duties. So yeah, things like lunch duty and so on. And where this also is really powerful is part of cover management, but I think we'll come on to that in just a minute.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I was going to go with absence, staff requesting absence first. So again, this is often done either by kind of, Microsoft or Google Form, or, another platform. So yeah, it'd be great for you to share how it is that doing it in one place unlocks this real benefit. And I think in particular, maybe show us how the teacher absence request feeds into cover. So what you were just keen to show us.
Perfect. So it's really easy for a member of staff to put an absence in. So that is just one of the types of calendar events, to request an absence, because there is an approval flow behind this. Now I can actually put this in for any member of staff because I'm the absence officer, but they would just put in some basic details, put in the dates, probably all day that they are absent for, and send that through. Put my reason in here. And so that will go into a queue of absence requests, which can be managed by the relevant staff member. So this is my list of staff absence requests. And as the person who approves these, when I go ahead and sign off on one of those, Involve automatically spots all of the different events in that day which might need cover. And the reason this is coming together really well is because this is not only classroom lessons. So here's all the geography lessons this teacher covers. It's also things like, here we go, a duty, a detention duty, their PM registration session, their club, their interventions, their music lessons, whatever it is. All of that is captured in one place when we do cover management. And so we can very easily just confirm which of these do actually need cover. And if we want to do the assignment of other teachers here, we'll actually see who's available. In this case, no one. And alongside that, we'll see the utilization for those members of staff. So the percentage utilization this week, or even this year to date, so that we can allocate that cover as fairly as possible between the other staff members. The insights which fuel things like cover management. So if we come to the insights on a member of staff, they've got contracted hours in the system. And so we can see for each week, how does their actual contact time compare against that? And you'll see as well within this that we've actually got it broken down by the different types of events in their calendar. So whether it's curricular or co-curricular, that is all in there, and that's powering those calendars.
Awesome. Okay. Do you want to just show what that looks like when you're assigning cover? Just so while this is up, so that we can see.
While we can. Yeah. Brilliant. So let me find a good example. Yeah. So here again is the queue of absences requested by staff, and again I'll approve that. And when we look at assigning one of these to other teachers, we've got those insights pulled through as percentages on the other members of staff. So when I pick one of those, I know how that's going to affect their teaching time this week.
Awesome. And why don't you show us as well, while we're on the kind of unified calendar aspect. So we've got everything in one place for students and staff. How about if we want to find that child that we were looking for earlier?
Yeah, great. So favorite way to find a child, as I say, is to use our search. I can just press Control-K actually to bring that up. And then as I start typing a student's name, here's Abjit, who I know has lessons today. And he is in Geography, Humanities Room 1. It looks like the register hasn't been taken yet. So we're going to want to chase down that teacher. And actually, we'll be looking in a bit at our live attendance dashboards, which is exactly how we will do that.
Cool. Okay, awesome. So we've brought all of our calendars together for staff, students, parents.
Cool. We
Yeah,
show parents' evenings very briefly.
yeah, go for it.
Right. So just because this is one we missed earlier. So here's a parents' evening that was created previously. And with these, it's a little bit like those club sign-up windows. But in this case, you'll be picking all of the subjects and actually the teachers within those subjects for the chosen year groups for their parents' evenings. You'll have entered a time slot when you put this in the calendar. And actually that can even span across multiple days for the same parents' evening. When that's then automatically published out to the relevant parents, you have this page for monitoring who signed up to their parents' evening appointments. And you can even go in and, well, you can contact them, but you can book appointments on their behalf. And actually this gives us a little preview of what they would see. So they can either use a grid of times to book in the appointments they prefer, or they can use our smart booking, choose the teachers who they would like to see, whether they'll be online or in person, and then Involve will automatically book in the best appointments for them. Obviously, as a school, you can specify that the entire parents' evening is in person or online or some combination of the two. And final thing to say is, again, because this is all in the unified calendar, with those appointments actually booked in, even if they're just 5-10 minute slots, they are going to appear directly on each teacher's calendar on their timeline. And so again, within a day, they can see all of their other lessons, activities, and their parents' evening appointments. And in fact, as I mentioned earlier, it will even feed into cover management when we're detecting which events in a day are going to be missed by a staff member who's off.
Awesome. Okay, so we've had a thorough look at the calendar, but another kind of fundamental principle of Involve is the way that we've brought different types of relationship groupings within schools together. Can you explain a little bit of why that's important, and then maybe highlight one of our favorite pods with some functionality, maybe something like the tag pods?
Yeah. So a pod on Involve is any grouping of some number of students and or staff. So this could be classes, this could be staff-only groups, this could be the relationship between a music teacher and the relevant student. And these are actually the foundational kind of entity on Involve rather than just the students. And that turns out to be really powerful. So these are the main types of pods. So you've got things like your squads for sports and staff groups and so on. But yeah, one of these is the tag type. And so I want to show you an example of one of those. So we've got one here, which is the off games tag. So the students who can't play sports at the moment. And there's various features of how you can use these pods. One would be that you can schedule the students being added or removed from pods at any future date. So we can automatically have them removed from the off games list. We've also got customized attributes. So with off games, you might want to have a note of what is the reason they're off games, so an injury or similar thing. And so you can have kind of notes and labels alongside those things. But where this really hits home is when we look at a normal class register, because you can choose which of these tags become visible to your other staff when they're looking at their classes. So this is just an English class. And if we scroll down, you'll see that some of the students have these little icons beside them. And those are our tag pods. So we've got things like flexi borders, we've got things like SEND. And in fact, in this case, we've got a dyslexia label and all of the notes, which actually have pulled through automatically from the MIS system as well. So yeah, you can choose how to make these tags quickly visible to any member of staff.
Cool. Okay. Now, on the intersection between our pods and events, so understanding how Involve works, on that kind of intersection are the events that are happening or will happen. And that's where we contain all of our functionality, so that you don't have complex navigation, lots of clicks, modularity. So James, can you show us why essentially explain why that's special, and show us maybe in particular with a curriculum lesson how this brings together everything that they need from homework to attendance.
Yeah, so you'll have seen already that when we click on one of these events anywhere in our calendar, it brings open that sidebar. And the important thing here is that the features you have on this page, whether it's team selection, whether it's forms for your trip, those features depend on the type of event. So whether it's a lesson or a fixture, and what group of people are on the event. So here's a classroom lesson, which is a particularly full set of options. And in the middle, we've got the register, which we'll come back to in just a moment. But we can do a lot of other things here. So for example, we can select a few of these students and we can add some behavior notes. And let's just quickly do a negative note, pick a couple of these tags, make some notes. We could even share a different note with parents, and we can make sure they're immediately alerted to this. We could even drop them into one of our upcoming detentions for which these year groups are eligible, and save that. And so all of that straight from our class register. We've also got things like seating plans where we can kind of drag and drop students and monitor the arrangement of our classroom, and other things like different ways of putting data in, looking at form responses, even planning our lesson, all within here. And actually, let me just apply a lesson plan so that I can see and edit a plan for this lesson and have that all in one place with the rest of this. And once again, on the right-hand side, we've got that communication area where I can make other notes, contact the parents, and so on. And the thing I always forget, which is being able to set homework within here as well. So we can put assignments directly into Involve, and really easy to just copy and paste, or even link to other files or online resources for your homework. And that will be sent automatically to students in the class or some selection of them. And then one of the nice things about Involve is they get to see that pulled in automatically into their list of tasks in their Involve app with those deadlines as well. And so they can kind of take ownership and see all of the homework that they need to complete. And they can even submit that through Involve as well if it's a kind of online resource or something they filled out digitally.
Cool. And you've kind of been flashing it up there a little bit, James, but can you tell us about attendance and why attendance in Involve is quite so special?
Yes. So let me just fill out my previous register so that this demonstration makes sense. So yes, let's open up the current lesson that I'm in at the moment. And this is geography class. Now, the first thing you will have already noticed actually is that we've got the entire day's timeline for all of the students in my class. And so I can see already which students I'm expecting to be in, where there's been absences or lateness, and in fact, even where there are other activities happening within schools. So in this case, a child has been out at a cello lesson, possibly is going to return late for that. In fact, let's mark them as absent. Everyone else is present. And you can see the way these timelines update live. And that's not only going to be visible to me, that's going to be visible to any other member of staff that comes on and looks at those. And suppose Abhijit's just returned from his music lesson, I can register that, and you can see his red bar has now turned green because he's returned. And so what we're actually capturing here, just by clicking on the ticks and crosses, we don't have to worry about codes, but we are capturing minute by minute data on where students actually are, as well as where they're supposed to be. And so, although we do also flatten this down to your traditional attendance code for the start of each of these lessons, within Involve, you are also capturing, for the first time ever, a true picture of where your students actually are, which is not only a good thing to do, but it is very, very powerful then for how you can monitor and look out for the students, which I think we'll come on to in a second.
Well, I was hoping you were going to go straight into it, James, and show us what that looks like from an attendance officer's point of view.
Great. Yes. So for attendance officers, we have these real-time dashboards. Yeah. So for attendance officers, we have in particular 3 key dashboards for real-time attendance monitoring. So the first of them is, are there any students who are unaccounted for, who we should be concerned about? So unaccounted for means they've either been marked absent or they're in classes where the register hasn't been taken. And so we cannot know their whereabouts. And these are sorted by how long they may have been missing for. It's looking pretty bad in this school, to be honest. But again, we've got that timeline of the student's day. And so we can very easily click on their lessons and try and understand what's happened here. Is it that the register hasn't been taken? Is it there's a pattern of this child being absent? Maybe we need to call up home and understand whether they've come into school at all. Then we've got a more direct view on just which registers haven't yet been filled out. And it's worth saying at this point, we're not just relying on checking these dashboards. We've got a host of automatic alerts you can turn on for these things. So Involve can automatically notify teachers when they need to complete their register that is overdue. But we can also alert the attendance officer to that information as well. So you can stay on top of these things with alerts, as well as monitoring these dashboards. Finally, we've got our dashboard for unexplained absences. So these are essentially things where an N code is what's currently in the system. So we know a student was absent, but we don't yet have a reason, either from their parents or perhaps put in by us. And so we can work through these, and we always want to bring this list down to 0. And we can do that either by overriding the code, or we can put in an absent event in one of our standard absence categories once we found out the reason for their absence.
Cool. And could you just show the kind of mapping of attendance codes that sits behind that, James?
Yeah. So within our settings, we've got all of the main types of activities that can happen in school, and I'm going to get my better example of this. So we've got in our settings all of the main types of activities that can happen in school, and you can see that for each of these, even the difference between on-site and off-site events, for each of these I can pick from any of the standard codes, and that's what is going to be saved both in Involve but also written back automatically into your MIS when teachers take attendance. But just to emphasize again, your regular classroom teachers don't have direct access to these codes. These are calculated automatically by Involve based on the spread of different activities that we know the child has on, and based on whether they've actually turned up for them. Also, for parent-reported absences, we've got the main categories of those, and you can confirm which codes map for things like medical appointments and holidays, authorised or unauthorised, and so on.